We are live now. Okay.
Yep. We seem to have about 27 people. Oh, but it'll be 24 people plus us three.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Rasmus. I have clicked. I didn't click on the button to start the stream, so I thought we were already live, but we were not. So now we are. Thank you for your patience. We had some technical difficulties. These technical difficulties, they always appear when you don't need them to be there. So that's what happened. That's what happened to us just now. But I think we are healthy and up. And how about we start slowly, Jonathan?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
lovely.
the idea is that we're going to explore how we can use Google Sheets. And I'm going to look at data I've never seen before with a journalistic eye. And I genuinely have not seen more than a little bit of this screen just to make sure it was working. So Ada, could you tell me a little bit, or tell us a little bit about what this data is and where it comes from?
Yeah, so today I'll be looking at the state aid data. And this data comes from the European Commission, and it's collected locally by member states. They collect data on how much state aid they give, and they send it to the European Commission, and they collect it in this huge data set. And then I'm going to share the link with you as well later. This data set I have scraped a couple of months ago because I was interested. We couldn't find something with my colleague through the portal of the European Commission, and in the end, it proved a very interesting data set. So what you just to give you an idea of how big it is, it's 2 million rows. So it's quite huge. We do miss some things, which is I think Slovenia is not in there, for example. So a couple of countries, they have their own portals, but otherwise it contains data from the whole Europe.
So I was going to say, I was going to work out how big it is. So if you could just click on, let's say, the D of column D.
Oh, wait, let me just switch to the screen.
Explain.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the screen. Ada is my mouse, which helps to slow me down and make me talk more about what's going on. So if you click on top of D, it says count, at the bottom it says count, bottom right, it says count 1,080. So you mentioned it has more than 1 million rows. Is that
2 million? 2 million.
2 million rows.
Yeah,
but
so
that's just a sample of it, right?
yeah, of course. So
Good.
The Google Sheets is great, but I don't think it really can handle 2 million rows, Jonathan.
No, I don't think it goes much above 20,000. But okay,
yeah.
Right. So there are 1,080 rows here, and I can see some of the columns. Are there some more columns that I can't see over to the right?
Let me just give you an overview of this. I'm going to apply this trick that I use a lot when I analyze data, and that is that I transpose the data. So now you can see all the columns that we have here with some sample data in the...
So it's transposed, it's turned it round by... It literally has pivoted it, but in a different way. It has pivoted it around its axis. Yeah. So now the rows are the columns and the columns are the rows. But it's just to give us a sample. So we can see the top 3 of everything. So we've got the year, we've got some kind of SA number, which is
State aid.
Société Anonyme, or
State aid.
Reference number. State aid number, thank you. Yeah. National ID for the company, name of the beneficiary or the company. Somewhere there must be a row that has, a column that has some money in it. Is that
True.
what's currently row 11.
Yeah, that's
So
the eighth
so for
element. Yeah.
example, the one that's in column B at the moment, that's 46,777.
Let me just make it a bit easier for you. I'll change the format here, so then you can see better what we are
goody.
talking about. Yeah.
So we're seeing it in currency. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if we go back to the main data,
Mm-hmm.
I'm quite interested already to see. Let us, one of the things that we as journalists are interested in is outliers. We want the biggest, the smallest, the oldest, the newest. Who's getting the most aid, as it's called? So that's column K. So if you click on data,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and create a filter,
Mm-hmm.
and then if you click on that drop down, and then sort Z to A.
So the largest to the
Quite
smallest.
quaint. Google Sheets only does that. Aha! So there is that Italian company in Piemonte, which is appears to be receiving what, 63 billion.
Let me
I can't count the zeros.
Let me do the same.
Yeah.
Let me do the same because it's nicer for the eyes. It's
no, it's only
6 billion.
Oh, it's not that much. It's only, but it is by far the biggest.
It's huge, huh?
In there.
Like,
huge.
who is that?
And that was in 21. So it's the Fiat Chrysler Automobile. Yeah, so it's something to do with Fiat and Chrysler.
Chrysler, yeah.
So this.
It's 2021.
So actually, we could see if we use the national ID. Sorry, while it was highlighted.
Yeah,
hang on a moment. Let's do it. Sorry, I just noticed. If you go back across the columns, it's going to be a column P or Q, somewhere like that. That's it. Objectives of the aid.
Objectives of aid, yeah.
So remedy a serious disturbance in the economy.
Yeah,
and we think of the year was 2021, so it's something to do with the pandemic.
Yeah, for sure.
So we could take an interest in that. So if you use the filter in column O, and we'll just look at if you clear everything and then choose that disturbance, remedy for a serious disturbance. Okay, so we're filtering now, so we only see that. And we see at the bottom, it says 323 of 1,079 rows.
Yeah.
So about, coming up to a third, well over a quarter of the entries in this data were for remedies for a serious disturbance in the economy. And it's very, I'll explain why I think this is a cheat that we shouldn't do. But if you click on the top of column A, Ada.
Yeah.
Column A. If you click on, sorry, K. I beg your pardon, K. Okay. The A, the money. If you click on the K of column K, it then does a total for us. It says sum 6.75 billion.
Yeah.
So the reason, that's a very quick way of doing it. If you use the drop down on that, where it says sum, Ada.
Here, yeah.
Down the bottom right.
More statistics.
It automatically tells us the average, the minimum, the maximum. So in fact, the maximum was that 6.3 million, and the average is only just under 21,000 within here.
No. This is 20 million, Jonathan.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Yes, you're right.
See, and I think here I'm going to move our heads because people could not see that.
Yeah. So the average is nearly 21 million, and the total given out was remedy for a serious disturbance in the economy is nearly 6.8 billion euros.
Yeah. And I don't think we made this explicit yet, Jonathan, but this is just car manufacturing in Europe. So so we can already say that the car manufacturers, like if we take out this huge outlier, which is this 6 billion euros, they anyway got 400 55 million with 20 million, 21 million on average, which will...
Yeah, I was going to say the other thing we could do is if
Which
you
the
go,
average is probably... Sorry to interrupt, Jonathan. The average is probably really skewed here, though, right? Because we have
yes,
this huge outlier. And what it does not do here is the median, which I think would be also would be somewhere around €1 million probably, or even less.
If we go back to the company names and the company code numbers, which is in the early columns, somewhere around A or B or C.
Yeah.
Name of the beneficiary. So if you go to the top of the, if we choose that one, that Italian one.
Oh yeah. Let me just.
If you look for Fiat, or actually the ID, it's easier to find the ID number than 0793. So if we copy that and we go down that column E and paste in that number and tick it, you forgot to tick it. I always do that. Yeah.
All right. It's the only one. But
it's only one. So I was thinking they might have more than one. They might have received that kind of grant.
I think this is a sort of, because you see this is 3 companies, so I think it's a very special one. But if let me just select all of them again. And if we go to Renault, for example, let's see if we can find a Renault. No, also not. But
well, we'll come back to how we're going to do that a little later on.
The thing here, Renault. Look, it's not only Renault.
Oh, there's lots of Renault. So you could select all 6, all the 6 Renault.
All the different Renaults, yeah.
So España, Cléon, Place.
So now if we...
So they've got various factories.
If we sum this up again...
Million.
Yeah. So only Renault.
I say that. I mean, it's a cheeky way to do the adding up, and I don't recommend it. If you're in a big hurry and the editor is saying, "Tell me the total. Tell me now," if you click on the column, it will tell you. But there's always a risk that if you don't know. Sorry, at this point we can see how many rows are affected. But sometimes you can't see the bottom of your column because it's so long. And if you add it up that way, you have no idea what mistaken numbers are in that column. It might be somebody's done their shopping list and somebody's put some phone numbers in there. And if it just adds it up without you looking at it in some way, then you could get the wrong answer. So it's a kind of lazy, quick way of doing it. And also, you have to write it down, because now that you've clicked onto another cell, we can't see that total anymore. We're back to seeing that there are 13 rows displayed.
Yeah.
Okay. Someone just looking at some questions. There's 2. One says, "Are we supposed to see a screen?" I hope you can see a screen.
I hope so too. Yeah, that is the purpose.
Yeah. And Miriam has asked, how long did it take you to scrape it? Was this a scrape?
That was
it
a scrape.
Download?
Yeah, no, it was a scrape, because there is a download button there, and they tell you they will send it to you via email, but the email never arrives. And you also have a very limited amount of exports that you can do, like the very limited amounts of rows. And I scraped it. It took me a week, to be honest, because it was a very tricky website to scrape. Let's put it that way.
We might have to do a whole session on scraping one day.
Indeed, yeah.
It's one of my favorite subjects, and I learn about it every day. Okay, meanwhile, back at the data, could you turn the filter off now, please, so that we go back to all the data?
I'll just click here, and it removes all the filters.
Yeah. And everything will reappear.
Can I just have one? Can I just say one little thing? And it's something I would really recommend to anybody that's working with spreadsheets, and especially spreadsheets that are long. You see that the first column, the first row here is frozen. You see, as I moved through this sheet, this first row does not move. And you can do that with Google Sheets with a view and freeze. And you can freeze also rows, but also columns. And I absolutely recommend that. It will make your life so much easier to freeze your rows because you don't,
Yep.
because otherwise you're looking through your data and you don't know what the column name is. So just a little tip there.
Okay, I want to see if you go back to the column, which I think is O, which is the one with the type of the reason, the objectives.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it without the remedy for serious disturbance in the economy. So if we could filter out that specific,
Yeah.
so if you type the word remedy
And untick this.
And then have everything except that. So now if you sort the, so we get to a much more normal sort of 41 million for that one. Oh, if we go to the top, we can see that there.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
Oh, sorry, it's not. It's the row 5. Oh.
Yeah.
No, it is because it's been filtered
much
out.
more normal. Yeah, it's filtered out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we can see quite a lot there. Again, we can do the naughty way of adding them up just to see the total. You click on add. So it's still just under 2 billion, and that's without any of the ones affected by caused by the pandemic. And remember, we're only looking at 1,000 rows. Imagine what the total was in your 2 million rows.
Good question. Yes.
So let's just see also, just while we're there, can you sort column K A to Z, please? So we see the smallest to the largest.
It would probably be, not set to A. It's automatic by now that I sorted to 8. 0.
Yeah, so somebody's got 0 and 8 euros.
8
Lovely.
euros, yeah. You find weird things like these in old datasets, don't you, Jonathan? Like,
yeah,
like you think like, I mean, whoa, I have a great. Yeah, true. But sometimes you think I have this great, super good data set, and then you look at actually the columns that are interesting to you, and then you find out like, oh, it's loads of zeros.
Yeah. Or that one, I mean, look at that. It's in Wales, 2019, and it was 8 euros. Do they really get only 8 euros in aid?
Of course not.
That will teach them to leave the European Union. Or state aid, yes. So filtering can tell you quite a lot. We've looked at we've taken out the special remedy for economic disaster or disturbance of the economy, and we're looking only at everything else, and we can see the largest and the smallest donations. Sorry. Aid.
Can I just have a clarification for that 0 now that I see that? And this is a column that I added when I was cleaning the data that is called aid is range. And sometimes the aid is expressed as a range. So this was probably something like between 0 and 10,000 euros. And when I encounter ranges in the data, I always take the lowest amount. So the 0 is probably because it was a range, but the $8, the 8 euros, that's really in there. Yeah.
Lovely. So we've just by using the filter and using the sort, we can answer quite a few things. Let's also just finish that part of it off by let's look at a particular country. So let's filter one country. Well, at the moment, of course, we've still got a filter saying we're not looking at the pandemic. Let's pick, what country would you like to pick?
I'd like to say Austria.
Let's take, it's first in the alphabet.
I think Austria doesn't really make cars, so do they?
That'd be interesting. Well, it's 50 rows. It tells you at the bottom. There's 50 rows. And we can see the names. The names are being repeated quite often. Cards and Steiermark and so on. So there's a BMW factory somewhere in Austria, but it's less specific. It says Austria.
Oh yeah, Oberösterreich, I think here you see that it's the region,
Yeah, but further up it's just got Austria.
Sure.
So looking at Austria, we could, while it's filtered, if you click on the drop down for column I, the aid instrument, it'll create a list for us of all the different things they're getting: direct grant, subsidy, loan, tax advantage or tax exemption. Not a huge range. Direct grant, interest rate subsidy, guarantee, loan. So we could untick everything except loan. Let's just look at the loans. See, so there's just a few are receiving loans in Austria. And the aid element, they're all quite low. Even 100,000 compared to the millions is not huge.
No.
So Eversum Mobility Solutions, GmbH in Steiermark, is probably to do with disabled people. Mobility Solutions is usually special cars. So they get a loan from the state. Banco Racing Systems. Rotax make engines, I remember. Okay, so for me, learning to sort and filter will tell you a lot of things fairly quickly. So we've concentrated on Austria. We're still not looking at the disturbance of the economy ones. But then at some point, I'm going to want to know, which country does the most. For example, I want to add up everything in Austria, everything in Italy, everything in all the countries, all the aid to car manufacturers. And I could do it by filtering for each one and adding it up, make a note, and then move to the next one. And with 1,000 rows, it's not going to take me too long, but 2 million rows, it's going to take a while, and it's really boring. So I want to use a pivot table.
Yes, and this is the interesting part, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the first two will get you a long way, but the pivot table will take you so much further.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that we do a different session for Google Sheets and for Excel is that they're subtly different. The things they can do and the way they do them is not the same. And so pivot table, the result is the same, the numbers will be the same, but the way that you do it is slightly different. So let us see which country gives the most to vehicle manufacturers. So insert is the menu and choose a pivot table.
Pivot table.
And then it's always new sheet. I never do it on existing sheet. I don't know if you do, because you get this blank table to play with. So I would like to put in the rows. So the rows is the thing where you want to see what's top and what's bottom. So put country in rows.
No, this doesn't work. Country?
Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So we put the country in the rows. That's not too long. But now let's take the aid element expressed as full amount, which should take its long name. See if you can drag that into the values.
It's
being awkward, isn't it? It's gone in columns by mistake. You want to put it in the values.
Yeah, that would be too many columns.
Yeah, the values is where the thing you want to count goes in values, the thing you want to add up. So at the moment, it puts it still in alphabetical order of country. So we need to change that. And this is where it's different from Excel. So in the little pink box under country, where it says ascending, let
me just move us somewhere because...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you've got... Okay. So if you change ascending to descending...
Yes.
And it'll still only deal with the country name. So the sort by will be
the sum.
So it's added up every reference to something in that country. And so, so we see by a long way, Italy seems to have given 6.6 billion euros, whereas Germany is only about a tenth.
It's good
almost
that
literally
we did that filtering before and the sorting, because now that we do the pivot table, we know that it's not that Italy have given actually that much more to everybody. It's just this one instance that was so huge. So that's why they are here.
Well, what we could do is if you take the year and put that in the columns box.
Yes.
Because that's going to break it down into what happened in each year.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I like about this now is that because we've got a pivot table, there's two really great things about pivot tables. First thing is it's really easy, I hope, from this point, to turn that into a chart. So because it's quite hard to read all those numbers and understand where the big ones and the little ones are. So,
can I show Jonathan how I do this? Because
yeah, you tell me how you do it.
I love, you can do this in Excel, but also here it's called conditional formatting. Do you ever use it, Jonathan? I use it a lot. And it's kind of a chart, but I will use a color scale here, and then it will show me what the biggest numbers are. And now, of course, this is our max value, and that's way larger than anything else. So I go for percentile here, and then I play around a bit, and now I get interesting things. So that means that when I say percentile 99 or 98 or 99, let's do that. That means that it goes until the number that is among the 1% of the largest ones. So it doesn't go to the max. And now that I have that, I can orient myself way better in this sheet.
Okay, there's a question from Miriam, and she says, if you use a program like LibreOffice Calc, would you say it's more similar to Excel or to Google Sheet? Well, I have an answer, but let's hear what you think. Go ahead.
Oh, Miriam, I use LibreOffice Calc, and I have to say it's close to none of these because I find it being very clunky in usage, and it's in small things. Like, for example, the other day I was unable to put a new line into a column, into a cell. So if I press enter, it will always jump around, or it's like that's why I like using Google Sheets, because I use Linux, I use open source software, so I don't have Excel actually on my computer, and I don't want it. But LibreOffice Calc is good for small things, like small quick things, but I wouldn't really work in it. What's your take, Jonathan?
And I find that with the copy, I've tried it several times. I have Linux on one of my laptops, and it just doesn't. The pivot tables just never work for me. As Ada says, it's really clunky, and that's the trouble with some open source software. It's just not good enough. I think Google Sheets is definitely good enough. It's limited in its capacity, but it's good at what it does, and there are certain things it does really well. And pivots is one of them. And I think journalistically that pivot tables are the most useful thing a journalist has in their data journalism. For example, let's just say that if we want to see, we see in 2021, Adi, that the European Investment Bank received 16.24 million. So if you double click on that 16.24 million, that is the same as asking the sheet, where did that number come from? So it's pulled out it tells you at the bottom, detail 2, European Investment Bank 2021. So it even tells you, and that's one thing that Excel doesn't do. So what it's done is it's taken all the elements that made up that 16 million and shows you, their original row, where did they come from? And in this case, it's quite a small group, but sometimes it's the quickest way. You would have had to do a filter for the year, and you'd have to do a filter for the European Investment Bank, and then you'd have to copy and paste to make that worksheet. But now, in one double click, we've got that list. So double clicking on a total in a pivot table will give you a breakdown really instantly. The other thing we could just show we've got a list on the right. It says rows, columns, values. Below values, you've also got filters.
Yes.
If we go back to that thing which was the reason for what was it called? The objectives of the aid. That will allow us to do a filter and take out the pandemic again. So if we
that was a remedy, right?
Yeah, remedy was the word we were looking for. So if you untick remedy, now everything. So now we have everything except remedy. So we see the numbers go down quite a lot, and we see if you now if you sort, so the grand total is, just make sure that it's descending by sum of so that is showing us the biggest giver of state aid once you take out the pandemic is Germany. And you can see certain years where they claimed nothing.
This was before the pandemic even. They gave a lot. They gave a lot,
You can see the UK leaving the EU officially on January 31st, I think. No, it was, I think it was March 21. But we didn't do anything. We didn't report in 21.
More stories in data than you think always, right? Like,
Yeah. But equally, Portugal's got some 0 years. You can see that that's missing. If anything grabs you there, for example, Estonia in 23 gave 2 million euros. Something got 2 million euros. So if we double click, so this is how we explore the data. Now we have a pivot table. We know that this will not include the pandemic, and it's just one company that received 2 million.
Industrial research.
Interesting. And the name. Oh yeah. Now the other thing I wanted to do is to go back to the pivot table. The pivot tables are very flexible. We could either make another pivot table, but gradually that does add to the overall size of the file. But what we could do, instead of the country being what we're looking at, let's put in the name of the beneficiary. So click X on the country, but drag name of the beneficiary into the rows. And we'll probably have to do some sorting. So do descending. So choose the little box, descending, and sort by. You have to do this each time, even though it was correct before. Name of down by sum, and we'll do it by, at the moment, we'll look at the grand total. And it's going to be Fiat, isn't it? No, I'm wrong.
Daimler.
It's Daimler. Interesting.
This is Mercedes-Benz, huh?
Yeah, but the other thing we could do, because I'm a little suspicious, because I noticed, sorry, go ahead.
We still have the pandemic filtered out here, so.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. I'm quite keen to do that for the moment. I just leave the pandemic out. Oh yeah, because you got in line 19, you got Mercedes-Benz in Hungary.
Yeah.
And then Mercedes-Benz generally.
The thing here is that I think we would need to clean the data first in order to make this pivot in the first place, don't you think so? Because we have Mercedes-Benz, AG.
You got Audi in different ways.
Mercedes-Benz manufacturing Hungary, the Daimler, Renault trucks, and Renault electricity.
What we could do is go back to the countries and drag them also into the area of rows, and that will subdivide all the recipients, the beneficiaries, sorry, they call them. So now it makes it's not very nice for an actual computer to look at, but for a human being, it's easier to read. You could imagine doing that as in a newspaper. So it's broken down, for example, the companies in Belgium and the one in Croatia and a few in Czechia and so on. So we can go back. So that will then include the different. It separates out the different, say, BMWs and Daimlers and Mercedes that are in different European countries, different outposts of the big
Germany
companies.
is making a lot. Oh, wow.
It does a huge amount.
It's a huge
I mean,
amount, yeah.
probably, for me, some of the article, if I was doing an article on this, and this, again, we have to repeat, is only 1,000 rows. So imagine, out of only a sample, was it a random sample, or did you just grab 1,000 rows for fun?
I grabbed all the state aid for manufacture of motor vehicles, so this is quite complete in this sector.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had your 2 million was everything, and you've just taken right. Okay. Perhaps before the end of the session, we can also have a quick look at the source, where you got it from, and how to get it. So without scraping, and possibly another day we'll talk about with scraping. But let's see. So the Austrians are doing quite well. Let's say that we want to get rid of the. I don't want to break down by year at the moment, so you can just get rid of the year separation. Or sorry.
I would like to stay here, actually, Jonathan, if that's okay with you. I will just remove the conditional formatting for now, because it doesn't make sense, because we only have it until here, so it breaks a bit. But conditional formatting, I just remove it. And I would like to show you, also in our previous session, we were talking a bit about AI and how to use that, and I think that for cleaning, for example, of this data set, using a large language model could be quite beneficial, because otherwise this is mostly handwork. So I just would like to show you how I do it. I've been doing that in the past couple of months, actually, in Sheets. So I have here, there is this app script possibility in Google Sheets. So when I click on
that's under the extension.
It's under the extensions, And in here I have pasted a little app script that allows me. Where did you get the app script
from? Did you write it, or did you?
I got it from somebody who wrote about this in their blog, actually.
All right.
Yeah, so I just kind of
ChatGPT.
Yeah, using ChatGPT, and here in the secrets I have the API key, which I'm not going to show you. You don't have to use OpenAI for this. Of course, you can use, for example, Hugging Face has very friendly options for also free API keys, where you can basically get any model into your spreadsheet. So. Sorry. I need to get back here, Okay. I'm gonna get back here, So that's my app script, just to show you very quickly. And, you're now back.
Your script is on the screen.
Script is on my screen.
The one that there we are. Now we're back. The one we're streaming is the spreadsheet. Yeah,
perfect. So what I'm going to do now is that what I have done effectively is to add a new function to my spreadsheet that is called call GPT, and I'm going to beneficiary clean. I'm going to add a new column here, column G, and I'm going to call it beneficiary clean. And I have prepared a little function here for you that I will ask the robot to do for me, which is, what is the brand of car mentioned here? Mention only the car brand name, okay? And this won't be perfect in any sense, and that's okay, but it might make our life a lot easier. So what you then see now, that in this case, it's going to get only, it's not F3, but F2 that I need to be in. So this is is going to take only Fiat while there is Chrysler here as well, you know? So you also need to do manual checks. But if I just drag it down here, it's going to load more, and as it goes, then you see that it just
It's even mentioned, it says it in English. The car brand mentioned is BMW. It says in row 14.
Yeah, also here it says, I'm sorry, but I need more context.
But I need more context. It's chatting to you.
It is very chatty.
Yeah.
Anyway, in many cases though, it says what it needs to do. So I'm just going to do this for all my 1,000 rows, which will take a little while. But it gives you, so any work that you need to get, that you can get done by a LLM, really helps you to do less work by yourself. So if you need to do this cleaning manually, it will take you a couple of hours. If you use an LLM to do some sort of pre-cleaning for you, it might take you 1 hour, right, in the end, to clean this data. So again, you see, this is Audi Hungaria made it Audi. So
it's not bad, is it? So what did you actually ask ChatGPT to do, and what did you have to write as a script?
Yeah,
or how much did you write as a script yourself?
Yeah, so it's I think that the prompt might be even better, but now I asked, what is the brand car mentioned here? And then I gave it the column F. And then I said, mention only the car brand name, because if you don't say that and it's not certain that it will do, it gets chatty, you know, so yeah.
So it's not bad.
No.
So the other thing I was going to say about sort of AI is, if we go back to a pivot table, just before we stop and take questions, over to the right where it says you've got the pivot table editor, it says suggested. So if you just clear out everything, so we'll have a blank pivot table. Just pretend that we don't know what we're doing. We've never done this before. And if you use the suggested drop down, it will suggest possible things. Oh, good. Today, no suggestion. Well, that's good. So you can't rely on it. That's the first time I've ever seen it lost for words. I've often had it suggesting some quite good questions, some less good questions. But today it's not so happy. Okay, that's worth knowing.
Maybe if we look at the smaller subset,
maybe we create a pivot table actually.
Sorry?
Just go back to the main sheet. Go to the main sheet and just create a pivot table, a new one. I think that suggested may pop up correctly. So insert pivot table. Let's see. Suggested. No. Nope, still not. Okay.
Usually you see suggestions here.
Then. So the thing you want to count or want to add up is going to go in the rows, because things go up and down tables. They get higher or lower in the table. If you want to subdivide it by something like year or region or something, you can split it by columns. And the thing you want to actually add up goes in the values. And from then on, you just carry on exploring your data.
Let's have a look at this clean names. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this column, do Control-C, and then I say paste special and values only. What this does is that it removes the formula here. And that it pastes the values only, because the problem with this call GPT function is that if you move around anything, it will reload. So I just want to keep the what it returned, and I don't want it to load again every time that I do something to this. So let's have a look at that. So again, we have here the beneficiary clean, right? Goes into rows. Oh, and
it actually gives you background, like does not directly produce a car brand, does not directly represent a car brand. So it's very chatty.
yeah, you need to really clean this still, but I think it's already better. Like, for example, you see that this Arcopor Oi, you can just strip it from that. It's not, sometimes the strings that you're interested in are all over the place. Let me just sort this by the highest, so I go to descending and sum, and what you can see is for the biggest car brands, it's actually doing quite a good job already. So for most of the money, it actually, for not most probably, but for a lot of the money, it actually cleaned quite well.
Yeah, it's got most of the names. It's interesting that Dyson Technologies there, Road 25.
Yeah.
You know, they make fans and
true.
And Hoovers and stuff like that. Yeah, so that is a great way of getting just the names pretty clean in not too long. I think, as we said, we're probably later in this series we'll do something on AI and how it can help you, and what to avoid as well. So we're nearly at the end. So we just got time a little bit late, but time for questions.
Please.
I'm not getting new questions in the chat. It's just a question of, does anybody have any questions or want us to repeat anything we did?
Yes. We are going to share this sheet publicly with you, so you can come back to it at any time when you would like to look at anything we did. Like, it's going to be read only, so if you want to work with it, you can go to File and then make a copy to keep it in Google Sheets, or you can download it as Microsoft Excel, for example, if you want to work at it, if you want to have a look at it in Excel.
There's a question from Rasmus, I'm guessing in Denmark. Do you prefer Excel or Google Sheets? Well, Ada, you've already told us that you don't even have Excel, so I think the answer is clear. I use more Excel than Google Sheets, really. But there are certain things that Google Sheets is really good at. Some of the little ones, like when we did the detail, it makes a nice little label for you. You don't have to do any more typing. So there on the one we're showing, it says Detail Estonia 2023. You would have to type that yourself in Excel. The other thing that's really good in Google Sheets is it has a built-in ability to download data from tables on the web. So if you find an interesting table that's on a web page, you can import it into Google Sheets. And Excel has something equivalent, but it doesn't work quite as well. But for a lot of things, I have to admit, these days I use the programming language R to do a lot of these things much more quickly and flexibly. And I know that Ada does Python. But the question was, do we prefer Sheets or Excel? I say Excel, and Ada says Sheets.
And Sheets are also really, I find better if you want to share your data with with your colleagues, for example. Then you really have you always have the most recent version of the data, which is very fine.
And it does save it automatically, although if you ever make a mistake, that can be a pain. Second question from Rasmus is, can Excel/Sheets handle the full data set of 2.5 million rows? There's a sad shake of the head from Ada there. There you would definitely, for 2.5 million rows, you either want to use Python or R, or even put it into a proper database and use a
Yeah.
database language like SQL.
Yeah. I
I
have this data
have
set in an
opened,
SQL database
yeah.
actually that I also interact with through Python. So
And I have opened up to 4 million rows, slightly by mistake, in Excel, and it didn't crash my laptop, but it got quite hot, and it took about 10 minutes to do everything. So it like if you clicked on something like we just did, even showing where your cursor was wouldn't appear for 10 more minutes because it was so baffled by the amount on the RAM that it was very, very slow. And if I did a pivot table, which I did to prove I could, that took 10 minutes. And updating every step was 10 minutes. So you drink a lot of coffee and you get very excited and you get very slow results. Above 1 million rows, I would definitely say don't use spreadsheets. Go for, you may need help getting there, but you will save time in the long run by using a proper database. Or, I mean, both Python and R are very good at dealing with large data sets. Because the thing with large data sets is you rarely need all of the data. It's lovely to have 2.5 million rows because it gives you a lot of choice. But in the end, your story is not going to come from 2.5 million rows. It might even come from 5 rows within the 2.5 million. And it's getting to those 5 rows which takes the filtering and so on. Yeah. So if you opened a data set, let's imagine it was 1 million rows and you only wanted the Austrian data, and you found that that was only 200,000 of the 2 million, then I would make a separate set of that and get rid of, shut the complete data and just work on the bit that I was interested in. That would save me the horror of working with a very, very big data set.
I don't
5 more minutes. Are there any more questions or anything you forgot to say, Ada?
No, what I wanted to ask you actually, Jonathan, when you were doing your Excel session, there was this you could do these little bar charts next to the pivot tables, right? Is it possible in Google Sheets? Because
I believe it might be, but it's a little bit different. So what I need you to do, because I won't remember how to do this, if you go back to let's make the pivot table. Go to pivot table 2.
Yeah.
And break it into years again. So just have maybe countries and years, just to give it some data. So yeah, the year in the there's a filter running. Hang on a minute. We must have only got.
Oh yeah, it's only the European Investment Bank, of course.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's okay. We have the whole data. Right, and then let's put. Sorry, I meant to have the year in the columns and the country in the rows.
Yeah.
Right. So if you go to the right-hand side of this, we would want to see a little graph for each of the countries. We don't want the total in column K. So if you unclick the show totals, there's 2 green ticks there. We just get rid of both those. We don't have totals. Now, if you go into there and type, I think, equals, which is always going to be a formula, sparkline, start writing sparkline.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the data will be B3, is it C? Yeah, C3 to J3, comma.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And now you drag that, so it's done. So you've told it where the data is, and then it's shown a little mini graph, and you have to drag that down. So it's done a mini graph for each of the countries, so we can see how things changed over time. But this, I would never show this to my audience. This is for me to have a quick look and say, which is the most interesting line here? So Sparkline, that's what it's called in Excel, and then a little while later they created it in Google Sheets, and you can play around. What was that one? Oh, it was bar.
The
There's
options,
line, bar, and
I don't know.
If you go to the help, go up to help and type in Sparklines. It tells you how to do Sparklines. There we go. So the options, you've got all sorts of things you can set it. Yeah. It needs to be in quotes.
Oh.
There we go.
Hey. Oh, this is wonderful.
Here we go. And now we drag that down again.
Okay.
So, as I say, this is for us when we're looking at data and just looking for a quick solution, saying what's the interesting, what's been going on here, year on year, country by country. So
we have another question in the chat.
Yes. What are your go-to websites for downloading? Oh, well, Benedetta, I assume that's your name, or Benedetta 555. There are so many answers to that. It depends what story I'm working on. We ought to do a whole session on sources, but within sort of, what's your favorite type of story, Ada? And what's your favorite data source, I should say?
Well, data source that I use a lot for my work is, for example, the financial transparency system of European Commission, which is all the spending that the European Commission does, which is public online. And I look at it if I want to know if a particular company got money from the European Commission. But that is my specific application. I think I can actually share with you this. This is absolutely not exhaustive, but I asked around a couple of people on LinkedIn what they thought were good data.
You don't need to share that because it's still us at the moment on the screen. It's not showing LinkedIn yet.
Yeah, I can show you. I don't want to change my profile photo, LinkedIn. Oh my god. For some reason my computer is a bit slow.
It's just showing our pictures.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay.
So as my activity and solo posts, and I will just paste it here in the chat so you can look at it in your own time. It was here, this one.
And there's the advert for us. And one of my favorite data sets I never cease to be amazed by is the Americans. It's still there for now. Is usaspending.gov. And that shows every cent of American federal spending anywhere, including outside the US. So right now you can sort of check on. It's not completely up to date right now because of course it's not live, but it does follow every contract, every loan, every bit of assistance budget, so you can see what companies in those countries get it. So that's one of my favorites.
Right? usaspending.gov.
A lot. Yeah, it's just not quite loaded up. We're still seeing good old LinkedIn from now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It seems to be lagging because I think it's showing. Oh yeah, of course it is lagging. I'm sorry. It's just, now we're on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. In case one of us says something disgusting, we have to have a time lag. So USA spending, you get to know it by sort of playing with it, but you see further down you've got recipient and location are the two interesting ones. So location, there are two types: place of performance and recipient location. So the recipient might be in the United States. They give when they were rebuilding Iraq, there were a lot of recipients in the United States. So they would say, we're spending so many $1 billion on Iraq, but the amount they were spending in Iraq was much less. So the location, you could choose a country. And I find it endlessly fascinating. You always find something interesting, even in countries that they don't do anything with, or country, you can look at what they were doing with aid in Ukraine before the war, and you can look at what they were doing with Russia before Russia invaded, Crimea and in 2022. So we're pretty much out of time. It's 34 now.
Yeah.
We've only got 14 people online.
Yeah. So if there are no more questions, you can have a look at these websites. We'll also paste the links in the descriptions. And
do come back.
Yeah.
Look at the description link. Yes, for the links. We will see how many people have been using it, and we will see some of you again a week on Monday.
Yeah.
When we're doing R.
14th April, and it will be actually me doing R.
I will be harder to R because she doesn't do R.
I don't do R, no. So that will be fun. So please do join us. See that. Especially if you want to know what you can use programming for and how that differs from using spreadsheets. We are just going to do a demo, to learn this obviously takes a couple of months to years, but if you're curious,
sharing it in a way that means you can follow on from what we've done. You can use our scripts. You can carry on. So we'll get you started, and we'll give you some material that'll keep you going, and we'll see you. We hope to see you then. We hope today was useful.
Thank you so much for being with us. Have a lovely day still.
Yeah. See you soon.
Bye. Okay, we're done.
Whew.
Yeah, that was good.